So pinning the cups into the frame, the notches here, you can mark. I usually put a pin there rather than, definitely don't want you cutting in because it will reduce the integrity of the lace in the frame. You can use a water-soluble pen if you want. I tend to just use a pin, and this seam goes to that point there. And the main other thing is how you place. I usually like to get that scallop, sorry, hope you can see that scallop edge there. I've cut that deliberately, so hopefully that scallop will go behind and that seam then sits there, which matches on this one here as well. So I'm going to start pinning here. I have this odd sort of not really horizontal, not really vertical way of pin, but, and then you're actually going around a curve when you pin. I think you can probably see I'm going around a curve. I just keep looking at how dry my hands are. It's this winter and it's cold, so they look worse because they're blue. So you can see I'm pinning around a curve like that until I get to where this notch here matches. And then I'll just go back and reposition some of those pins so that that ease is redistributed a little bit more evenly. So that's that, and then I'm coming around to having this notch matching that pin. And you might notice too, I've kept these threads long. I just find it's easier for handling if they're there. Then I want that there. So I'm going to pop a pin right there. Check from the outside that it's sitting where I want it to, which is, don't forget it's going to go back that way, so that's perfect. And I'm trying not to suck through my teeth because people say that's a bit weird. So, and then I'm going to pin the rest. So now I'm going to stitch that again with a straight stitch. Now, just for a bit more excruciating detail, at this edge I don't mind using a forward, back, forward, but at this end I tend to come off just using, I meant to say with the straight stitch, when I get to the end there, I just run off the end. I don't do a forward, back, forward, just because as you can see here, I've actually had to unpick it a little bit because it didn't match as well as I might like. So I'm just going to redo that end. And that's actually why I usually do this side first, because then when I go to this side, I can start and I know where exactly I've got the other one sitting to match it. So I'm much happier with that. And then I'm going to leave those ends hanging just because it makes it easier for handling when we're adding the channeling. And now I'm going to go across and pin the other side. When I do the other side, again, I'll mark the point there, the notch on the bridge, but with a pin. But the main thing I want to do is not worry so much about where the pin is, but what looks like it's equal visually. So I've lined that one up with the pin there. I'm then going to move this one across so that I've got that exact point like I had on the other side. There. And you can see how I've turned that back and checked it matched visually. I hope everyone likes excruciating detail. So you can see here, even though I've matched that with the pin, this one looks slightly lower. So I'm just going to move it up slightly. So I keep looking at this and looking and seeing, does it match or doesn't it? And I think if I have to keep looking that much to work it out, it's okay. And also then I laid it up against the model and it looks okay. So now we're going to add the channeling. So as I said, I've just left those threads there because I find it easier for handling. I've just got them a bit shorter to make it easier. But basically you want this channeling to be around the curve as it is. See how that's got a curve to it, and you want to use that curve. So we're going to start, I usually just start off pinning, but we actually want to only start stitching about 1 inch down because we're going to fold this under and put underarm elastic there. So we're only going to start stitching about 1 inch down there, and we're going to pin so that the channeling, it's about 1.5 mils, or but then so you're stitching just on that seam itself, and you can pin, you want to pin around the curve. I usually, because I've been doing this a lot, I usually just start off and then I do it on the machine, but you're constantly trying to go around the curve and like that so that you don't widen the seam, and also to have this sitting just across the seam allowance there. So I'm going to come back to you when I've done both of those. Oh, and at this end, when it comes up to this end, you want to actually run across the end just a little bit, about 1 inch, and then cut the channeling off, and I'll explain why that is when we get there. So you can see that's done, and you can see I've just extended that right up to the end there. And the reason I'm doing that is that we're going to turn this under, and it's easier to handle when we do that. So I've left the ends hanging there at the underarm, and now we're going to move up to this bridge. We're going to close the channeling at the bridge, and how we're going to do that is we're going to stitch across here. It's easier to see where you're going on this side, but it's harder to stitch. So usually I will start on this side, and I want to be getting just below that area there, so finishing just about 1 mil or 2 below that plastic, and then going across, forward, back, 5 times. What we're trying to do, and you can start from this side if it's easier, is stitch the channeling closed, but we're trying to then have it so that that seam, when it folds back, sits under like that. So that's why that seam is starting just here and running across. And when you get to your machine, don't know if I can show you. So you're going to actually start doing that, like I was saying, but the problem is that the angle of the foot is then sewing uphill. So what you need to do is get one of these little things, or you can use this, depending on the height that you want to get. Pop your needle down at the point you want to start, and then pop this step height behind there so that the actual foot is then level and not trying to sew uphill, and then you'll be able to do it a lot more easily. Yep, see, that goes quite easily now. And I'm just going backwards and forwards, like I said, that 5 times. The other thing I learned from somebody recently, which I thought was awesome, is that there is also this I can't remember what it's called, a thing at the back that pushes in, you can use to hold it level as you're sewing as well, which is another nifty idea. Anyway, I'm going to have to work on a better setup to get closer to the machine during the week to show you that. Okay. So you can see how I've done that. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, I usually have the stitch length at about 1.8 for that, or 1.6. And then I'm just going to do the other side. But the main thing I wanted to check is that when I fold that back, that you can't, it's well below that edge. So now that I've got both of those, and I know that they're both these seams underneath, what I'm going to do now is what we want to do, we want to be able to just pull that back, so where that where the seam, it's a bit hard to show you on the camera, but where the seam, maybe it'll be easier with the other one to show you. So then I've trimmed the other one back, and you can see they both sit flush behind the bridge there, but also very secure, so the wires won't start to pull through. We're going to stitch that second pass of the channeling down later. Where this seam here overlapped to go onto the channeling, we're just going to free that up so that that can then get pulled down, and then we're going to be able to cut that channeling flush. And then that sits behind there. Just trim off some of any little edges. And then you've got this channeling completely closed, and this is sitting behind that bridge. And then the next, we're going to stitch that other row of the channeling down later.